Are you in a better spot today?
I am.
So we going to revisit the shit show that was last week? We didn't look. I mean, surprisingly, we're not divorced. I know that probably is shocking to everybody that listened to last week's podcast.
I'm not surprised by that.
I'm a little surprised by that. So I guess we're going to get into it and kind of talk about it.
Okay.
You ready?
Sure.
Oh, here we go.
If you've tuned in to see if you can argue with your spouse and still be madly in love, you're in the right spot.
I'm Kent.
And I'm Annie.
And we're the Kilkos. Sound like a game show.
We're your host of Life's Little Arguments. We're not trained experts in love and marriage. Actually, we might be quite dysfunctional, but we have been happily married for 16 years.
Debatable.
Not only will we share all the ups and downs of marriage, but the ins and outs of raising his and her kids, growing through new jobs and opportunities, and our latest obsession, our empty nest babies, our dogs, Blakely and Lincoln.
So if you hear ding, ding, ding across the microphone, they're probably walking across the floor.
Listen in each week while we discuss our life, current events, random TikToks, and the little arguments that undoubtedly come up. Whether you're in a long-term relationship yourself or in a fresh new relationship, we hope you find our podcast fun, entertaining, and helps you realize there is a normal in life's little arguments.
Close as it can possibly be, too, so.
Oh, Lord. Okay, so...
You're not even on the live camera.
Well, I mean, I don't know. What am
You
I
got to lean in a little bit. Move the pillar. And, yeah, there you go.
Oh, my God. That was
lean in a little. That was your comfort pillow?
That was my comfort pillow and support. And now, can you even hear me?
It's still not making any difference. We're going to have to do something different with this live.
Well,
There's got to be some way to zoom in or zoom out.
Were you able to, do it,
I don't think
landscape,
so.
horizontal?
I'm afraid to turn it, though.
Oh, okay.
I guess we can try it.
Yeah, you might as well try it. I don't think there's anybody on there anyway. So if anybody...
Looky.
I mean,
I don't know how it shows up to them, though. I think, hold on, let me see.
Yeah, it probably shows up sideways.
This is on your TikTok, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Go ahead.
What was that noise?
Something talking.
Okay. So, hey guys, welcome back.
We're sideways as hell.
Yeah, that's weird.
That's not gonna work.
That's not gonna work.
No.
We're doing the best that we can. Just doing the best that we can. So we survived the week. It was rough. It was rough for me. I don't feel like it didn't impact you at all in the slightest.
I was over it the next day.
No bullshit.
Well, that's not true.
That's not true.
Yeah.
It took us. We sat down. What's today? Thursday.
Yeah.
When did we sat down? Tuesday night.
That sounds about right.
And had what I feel like was finally a pretty good talk through all of it, because we were not talking through anything on that podcast.
We were talking at each other.
You were talking at me.
Okay.
Matter of fact, I felt like you were like, just, I'm gonna attack her because I want her to figure this out, and I need an answer. I want her to find the answer, find the solution to the problem, and we're not getting off here until you do. That's how I kind of felt. And so, yeah, it wasn't great. But we were able to sit down and kind of revisit with less emotion. And it still took us, kind of going back through it a couple times, I feel like, before we kind of got to what I feel like was the root of it.
No, I think to your point, I had to say it out loud 2, maybe even 3 times. And then it's kind of one of those deals, like once you say, you're like, now that I'm saying it, that really is the reason. Like that is really, I just wasn't able to convey that the other night, I think. And so I'll go ahead and apologize for the other night. That was pretty uncharacteristic of me, I think. I was really kind of completely caught off guard. Going into the podcast, you were like, Ken, I'm not sure what we're going to talk about. And after the podcast, I said, I will never do a podcast again if we don't have some type of agenda or at least some direction. It doesn't have to be written on the board or anything like that, but it caught me so off guard, and then it snowballed from there. But I certainly did not mean to disrespect you. I did not mean to come across like a
jerk
a jerk,
asshole.
Like, I didn't want to sound like a husband from the 60s.
You know,
that was not my intent at all. Like I said, I mean, I feel like, we have a pretty non-traditional marriage as far as that's concerned. Like, stuff that I do for myself, stuff you do for yourself, and I don't expect you to wait on me. I don't expect you to do stuff for me, whatever. But that's beside the point. I was very frustrated, and I think that after we talked on Tuesday, I realized it was directed towards you, but it was really kind of internal, I think, more than anything else. So
yeah. So I'm glad we were able to kind of push through that and figure that out, because after the fact, the next day I tried to get you to talk about it, and it still was just like hot topic, still hot button. And so we kind of just let it go through the weekend, whatever.
Do you remember how you tried to get me to talk about it?
I was like, you need to listen to the podcast.
Yeah.
You need to listen to this point in the podcast. Like, I can't, this is not resolved. I hope you don't think it's resolved, because it's not resolved. And so I didn't go about it the right way. It wasn't the right time. We just needed to both, I think, calm down. And, when I did sit down and want to talk to you on Tuesday about this, you were like, dude, like, we're done with this. And I'm like, no, but I am not done with this. I have not gotten resolution to this situation and how it made me feel and what I was trying to get across to you. And I'm glad that we were able to, sit down and kind of talk through that. So
I feel like it would be good for us to somewhat revisit Tuesday's conversation, but you're probably going to have to lead me down that path.
I know it's hard though, because like once we've gone through it, it's kind of like out of my brain. I'm like, I don't even remember.
But it was such a great conversation.
It was such a great conversation.
It was a breakthrough conversation.
It really was. And like as soon as we started talking about it, like as soon as we started getting to what the root was, you're like, man, we probably should have been recording this entire time. I'm like, yeah, we probably should have. So I think the way it started is I was in a funk. I had kind of been in a funk, and or felt as though I had kind of been in a funk. And I had made this statement to you a couple of times that I didn't feel like I've had anything to say recently. And here's what's crazy is I had an agenda. Like I was we were going to talk about, hell, I don't even know where it is at this point, but I had a list of things that we were going to kind of talk about, and you just went straight into that. And I was like, I was taken back. I was like, whoa, I did not see this conversation tonight going this direction. I
was not aware you had an agenda, by the way.
I understand that. Okay. But sometimes you just gotta trust me. But, and so that's kind of where it started. And you were just kind of like going in on me about, trying to figure out what it is that I want to do with my life. And to me, it felt very much like you were trying to solve my issue. And I think that's partly what I was trying to tell you is I never asked you to solve this issue for me. I am allowed to tell you as my husband how I feel without you needing to solve it. And I think we've gone through that before,
sure.
Because
it's my natural tendency.
It's your natural tendency to solve. And I think a lot of husbands probably are like
sure.
that, or spouses, I think, probably. And so, that wasn't necessarily the issue, but it was like, no matter what I was saying, I felt like I was trying to tell you, like, I don't know. And you're just like, no, you're going to figure it out and you're going to find a solution. So that was getting frustrating. And then, what I was telling you is that I had felt a frustration, an irritation. I kept saying irritation, and you did not like that I was saying you were giving off an irritated energy. You're like, I 100% disagree. I think you're wrong. And I'm like, okay, well, I know what I feel, and I know how the house feels, and it does not feel like a loving situation. I don't care what you say. I do not feel that. And so that, I think, also just kind of sent you. And I was like, and so because I felt like you had gone at me for like 45 minutes, I was finally like, okay, well, just let me go ahead and tell you, like, I don't think we're in a good place. And I have to, what did we decide? I need to say this in a different way to you, because that is the way you, when I say we're not in a good place, you immediately go to
It's checkout time.
it's checkout time.
Yeah.
It's the end of the world as we know it.
Yeah.
D-town, whatever. And I'm like, no, I just need you to know, like, I am not feeling connected to you in the way that I want to feel connected to you.
Well, you have to take into consideration too, not to sound like a sissy or anything, but like, my love language is words of affirmation. And so just like words of affirmation help me, there's certain words that also probably trigger me maybe differently than what would trigger you.
Like, your love language is words of affirmation?
Oh my God, dude.
You're like physical touch.
Well,
like,
I can have more than one.
Oh God almighty.
But how many times do I say all you need to do is say good job, or all you need to do is say thank you, or all you need to do is show some, like those?
I've never heard these from you.
Oh my God,
No.
bro.
No, absolutely not.
Are
You've
we-
never said this to me.
Are we even married?
You have never said this to me, ever.
This is embarrassing.
Oh my God. The way I look is embarrassing. But anyway, okay, so let's just get past that.
Wow.
So that, okay, whatever.
I'm at a complete loss right now, but go ahead.
God. Okay, so that also like set you off, triggered, like you were triggered upon triggered. And everybody that listened to this podcast was like, oof.
I heard. I
Like,
know who all y'all are. I know the
Well,
names.
the
I know
ones
where
that
you
were
live.
watching
I'm
on
just teasing.
TikTok were like, I had to leave. Like, it was feeling uncomfortable for me to watch. Like, this was a private conversation that I didn't feel like I was supposed to be listening to. And I'm like, damn, like, I felt that it was kind of a rough conversation. It was not our normal podcast, but but I didn't realize, like, from a viewer's standpoint or listener's standpoint, that it felt like that. So anyway, so that's kind of the background, I think, of what it was. And I kept telling you, there is this energy. There's an energy that you're giving off. There is an irritatedness that I feel like is directed towards me. And you kept saying, but it's not. And then I think finally through this conversation, we determined that there really was, like, you finally admitted, like, there was some irritation about me having an for lack of, I guess, better words or whatever, like, negative attitude around, not around this whole TikTok, and not believing in myself and whatever. And it's like, or talking about hating to go to the grocery store, or like cooking every night or whatever. And I'm like, so I had to step back and be like, okay, I understand that. Like, you're taking that in from me, and you're at a point where you just can't. Like, you're trying to be supportive of me, but you just can't take any more of that.
And in talking about it on Tuesday, I think, like, after we said it a few times, I think kind of one of the things that we arrived at is, you were like, Kent, am I not allowed to have doubts? Am I not allowed to have, this and that? And I said, yes, you are. I said, in fact, I have them too. Like, there's days where I'm thinking, okay, am I going to get this house sold? There's days where I'm thinking, the people that I'm working with, am I going to be working with them next week? There's days where I'm thinking, okay, I'm good for March, April, May, but I don't have anything lined up for June. Those same doubts are in my mind. And so when you do that, and I don't typically voice those things. I compartmentalize, I process them myself, whatever. I typically will give myself a date or whatever, pity party, and then it's back into, action mode. And I think kind of what we said is, like, when you're doing that, it's like compounded times 1,000. Because, like, there's only so much capacity when I'm internalizing this stuff myself for doubts that I'm having with myself. And even though I'm doing good, you always want to do better. You always want to be thinking, okay, what's next? What's, the next day? How do you continue to grow? Blah, blah, blah. And so that was, I think, somewhat of a breakthrough for me to be able to say that, was maybe me trying to take that on because I'm just a natural, I want to take care of you. Me trying to take that on made me realize, like, I don't have the capacity to do it. But on the opposite end, I said to you a number of times, I said, but look, Like, I never, ever, ever want you to think that you need to go somewhere else to do that. I don't want you thinking about having a conversation with someone else. And because that's also how relationships mess up. And I'm not talking
Right.
about anybody. I mean, girlfriends, yeah. Family, yeah. I'm talking about
Yeah.
another person that, you confide in. Like, I don't want that to ever be the case. And so there's that fine line between, like, how can I be here for Annie and still take some of it in without pushing her away, because I certainly don't want you to feel like you can't come to me, you can't vent to me, you can't whatever. But I think it's just it was compounding a little bit, and I think that's where that irritation was coming in. Instead of me just saying, "Look, I can't take this on right now," I was just getting frustrated with
Right.
it.
And refusing to say that you were getting frustrated with it, and I could feel it.
Yeah.
And it was causing a rift between us. Whether you believed that it was causing a rift, for me it was causing a rift. And so I think it was important for us to have that conversation. And what's crazy is it's not a hard conversation to have. Like, that's a very simple conversation when you kind of break it completely down to the root cause.
Sure.
This is a, hey, this is what I'm going through. But when you're not trying to share your doubts or concerns with me, that's also a problem. Like, you should be able, and not say, like, not trying to, I know when you share it, it's not like you're trying to
Sound like Jax.
or scare,
trying to-
well, no, or like scare me or worry me or concern me or whatever about, I'm having this doubt or this, that way. But it goes both ways. You should be able to share that stuff with me as well.
Yeah, I do. First of all, I don't know that I ever really have a whole lot in however long we've been together. It's just, I don't think it's natural for me to do that. I don't think it's natural for most guys to do that. And then to add to that is, when I do that, I do worry that it's going to scare you. I do worry that you're going to get worried. And then on top of that, sometimes you jump into coach mode and accountability mode, which there's times I like it, but then there's also times where it will absolutely send me over the top. So it's like, okay, I don't know that I don't know that I'm that doubting myself that much to where I'm wanting to hear her coach me on some shit right now. But so that was, again, I think after like the third time of coming back and saying something similar, I was like, there's probably a lot more to that than I think, or that we think, or whatever. The other thing, and this sounds obvious, and you kind of alluded to it earlier, it's like, okay, you don't want me to solve the problem for you. We've kind of had that conversation multiple times, but I think that this is a relatively easy thing to communicate. It's just, you have to be mindful of it. Like, there needs to be times where you preface what you're going to say by, I don't need a solution. I just need a vent. And there's times I need to hear it and say, what are you looking for from me? Like, are you looking for a solution? Or are you looking for just to hear you vent? And as hard as that will be for me sometimes to do, I need to accept that that's what you need from me in that moment.
Right.
Because a lot of times, that is your initial reaction. And then after you've calmed down, then you come back to me and say, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about that? Or so I think that both of us just need to be more mindful that really is also a big opportunity, but something that's really not that difficult to fix, if you will.
Right.
So,
because we know I am the way I deal with things and the way that you deal with things are very different. I am very much a very emotional person, and I have to deal with those emotions and move through them, and then I can be rational and I can put a plan together and I can figure out that this is not the end of the world. But sometimes when I first encounter something, it's like, it's the end of the fucking world. And I just have to move through that. And I think, that is not how you do it. And it is a, for sure, probably difference and frustration sometimes around that. But
I feel like there was some other conversation too around.
Okay, so yes. So there was conversation around the whole,
It's not gonna fall.
well, it was like leaning, I am allowed to have doubts. I am not anyone out there that says they have never had a doubt in their lifetime about themselves and their success or whatever, in my personal opinion, that's a lie. I don't know how that is possible for any single person. And just because I might have that doubt or voice that doubt, it doesn't mean that I'm going to stop. It doesn't mean that I'm going to give up, and it doesn't mean that I'm going to quit. But I can have those frustrations and doubts. And then, I kind of said about the whole, you were talking about, in the grand scheme of things, like you don't have a job and whatever, it's going to the grocery store. It's kind of like expected or, is it really that big of a deal? And no, in the grand scheme of things, it's not that big of a deal. I enjoy cooking. I have come to really enjoy cooking. Now, I still don't like going to the grocery store, but I didn't like going to the grocery store when I worked a freaking job. I don't like going to the grocery store now. Just the fact that I no longer have a 9 to 5 doesn't mean that I'm going to all of a sudden love going to the fucking grocery store. That's also not reasonable. And it is okay for me to not like that. Now, could I possibly say it to you less? Sure. If I feel as though that is something that is causing you to take on a little bit more stress, then obviously, yes, I will. But I'm still allowed to hate going to the fucking grocery store. Me not having a job doesn't change my like or dislike of things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I felt like there was more conversation around this because someone that listens to us made the comment. Is antiquated the word?
Yeah, Courtney did. Yeah.
Well, I wasn't going to say a name, but said he sounds like an antiquated. He's living in antiquated times or whatever. And that bothered me because I feel like that's.
But it is how you said it and how you came off.
Right. But I feel like that's literally the opposite of the way that we live. But I do understand, in listening back to that and listening to the conversation, I get it. But so I feel like there was somewhat of a breakthrough with that on Tuesday as well. I just can't really remember what it is. I think that once we kind of understood the irritation piece of it, then it kind of just trickled into, okay, well, maybe it's affecting this or maybe it's affecting that or whatever. And, and I think we said, at the end of the day, listen, my number one goal is to give you a choice on whether or not you want to work or not. And if we're able to do that, to me, that is the ultimate measure of success. That is my number one goal, is to give you the choice on whether or not you want to work or not. And, you can say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, whatever. And then I'm like, okay, so you're going to be able to leave these 2 dogs for 8 hours a day.
Right.
And then it changed. Oh, you're right. You know what I mean? So.
Well, and so I think, it might be partly coming back to me, but so I think the very end thing that I said is that the fact that I don't necessarily know what it is that I want to do, or I don't necessarily know what my purpose is what is causing you an irritation, because that's kind of where we were at on Tuesday. And it was less about that and more about the fact of just you had these, stresses that you're not necessarily telling me about. And then what I'm saying is compounding that for you. But, it is very different for you. And it's, I think, probably been harder for you to understand the fact that I am not built that way, even though I have, I worked at Geico for 21 years and I can be a very stable person. In the way of, having a job and doing it very well. That is a societal conditioning of me. That's not really how I'm meant to work based on, my human design and things like that. And I think I was also trying to put myself in a box, niching down in the whole TikTok thing, because that's, of course, you're listening to everybody, of course, and everybody has a different opinion.
Do this, of course, this, and
right.
Pay this. Yeah.
Right. And a lot of it is, niching down. And that's in every digital marketing business that I have tried to go through. They talk about, what's your niche? That's a buzzword. And it is important. However, I have always struggled with that because I don't feel like I have a niche. Like I try to say, okay, well, my niche is like women over 40. Well, but yeah, there's so many things that women over 40 like to do that are completely different. And there's so many things that I like to do that are completely different. And I think that's where I struggle because, one day I'm being creative and I'm like, oh shit, I want to build a bookcase. And the next day I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to actually be a digital marketer and I really want to coach women on how, what to do with their lives. So, and the next day
I want to paint.
I want to paint something. And the next day it's like, oh, let me learn about how to do YouTube.
Squirrel.
It's so I am meant, but that's how I'm meant to operate and how I'm meant to work. And that is the beauty of me. And that is my purpose. So it is frustrating to me to try to want to be somebody who wants to have, a business, an online business, a work from home business, because I have so many talents. There's so much knowledge about so many things, but harnessing that into something that I can make my career all about that one thing feels very suffocating to me. And I think that is a frustration for you and probably has been for you from me, at least for the last year and a half. Like maybe not while I was at the store because that was the focus. Like that was, what I honed in on. But
I think it's fair to say too, because I think that most people have to see something through in order to see success.
Right, and that's not the way it is for me.
Right, and so...
And a lot of times it's not success. A lot of times it is... sometimes it is failure, and it's not failure because I've learned it.
Yeah.
I might not be able to, launch something to turn it into this, business for it to be a quote-unquote success. But for me, personally, the way I'm built... learning it, that's the success of it. And learning it and then being able to, if I need to teach somebody else about it, I can do that. Now, that doesn't mean that I want to now be a life coach or, a business coach or something like that, because I think, again, that's still like, I don't know.
That definitely causes some frustration because it's like, you're doing better than you give yourself credit for one.
Right.
And when I hear these, I'm like, dude, like this doesn't happen overnight. Like,
right.
First of all, like you go to somebody on TikTok and they've got X number of thousands of people. First of all, you have no idea how long it took them to get it. Second of all, what people did on the internet in 2020, 2021, when COVID was at its height is completely different. People's mannerisms, activity, all. So these people that have, 20, besides famous people, these people that have, 500,000 followers and they're the holy grail of teaching people. Like what they did in 2020 is not what is normal today. And so I say all that to say that like when you start having these doubts and then it's like, I know that you're this person, it's like, how do you expect anything to ever really like
take
work?
off?
Like
take
how
that,
do you, you're and so many people kind of quit before it takes off, and you don't quit. You just go a different direction, and it's like, come on, like I want you to be successful. I know that you can be successful. I'm your biggest cheerleader, but damn, you gotta see this through. And so, and so when so in addition to kind of it compounding my own doubts, then it's just like, fuck, dude. Like I'm sitting here trying to figure out what I'm going to do, and I do the same thing every day.
Right.
And then you're just like all over the place, and it's just like my head is like spinning sometimes, and so.
I had to really, after our conversation, kind of go back to, what I've learned and just refamiliarize myself with it and just remind myself that is in fact how I am meant to be. I am not meant to do a straight line up like you are. That, there might be some gaps here and there, or you might not go straight up as quickly as you want, or there might, be bumps in the road. But for me to get from here to there, it's going to be like this. It's going to be a winding road. And that's just how I'm meant to be. And it is, I know people probably get sick of me talking about human design and my human design, but like when I tell you that every time I learn something more about my human design, it absolutely, what's the word? Fuck. I just literally had it right on the tip of my tongue. It
lightens you up,
no, it
invigorates,
no.
excites.
It validates. Oh my
Okay.
God. It is so validating. What can I read what I sent you today? Because I don't have it on it's on the phone. Because
You sent me a text.
and
right?
every time, it happens every time. When I get back to my spirituality and, doing the things that I have done in the past to learn the things that I've learned, every time I kind of stray away from it for a little bit, which I have for probably the last 3 or 4 months, 2 or 3 months, whatever. And I get back to it, I immediately am shown exactly what I need to see. And so I pulled up a podcast this morning to go on a walk. And I was like, okay, this sounds like something that probably applies to me. Let me just listen to it. And I listened to it, and this is what they said. You have no fixed, consistent, and fixed sense of identity. You have no linear, this is who I am, what I love, what I'm passionate about, and who I identify as. There's no one path for me. My path is meant to be undefined. It's meant to change. It's meant to flow. I inherently am meant to interact with others and listen to their direction and path and take that on and try it on for size. And I was just like, oh my God. I freaking felt like I was hit by a ton of bricks. I'm like, fuck yes, this is why I'm having such a hard time saying this is my niche. Like, I can't just say beauty's my niche or fashion's my niche or
Older women.
Menopause is my niche, because I am not meant to be that person. I am meant to do all of the things. And so that's why I'm like, that's where I'm going to be really successful. And so, and it may be completely different, and it's going to go against everything that everyone teaches as far as from a marketing standpoint. A marketing standpoint is find your niche. Well, I can't do that. So I am going to have to make my own way. And when I do that, the right people are going to come to me. I am 100% confident about that. Now, I still have doubts, and I'm confident in that, but also I feel like I could just cry right this second. So, that's just the way that I am.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. When I read the text, I think I was in the middle of something. And so I glanced at it, and it said, wow, listening to an undefined G-center pocket. And my mind immediately read G-spot. And I was like, oh, shit, this is about to be dirty.
Of course it did.
This is about to be dirty. I was like, hell yeah. And then I go, and I'm like, let's just tell me shit. No, but I think
telling me shit I already know.
I think that was the other breakthrough piece from our conversation on Tuesday. The follow-up conversation was, we got to talking about your manifestation, your meditation, your journaling, and all these other things. And I said, I don't to me, when you were doing all that stuff and you were working out, that was to me the best version of Annie ever.
But I can't be that version because that's who you want me to be. I need to be that version because that's who I want to be. But I did understand that you don't want to do that stuff, which I wish you would. I wish you would trip out on it with me as well. I wish you would totally geek out on it, but you don't, which is fine. But you do secretly.
There's no secretly. But I think that was the breakthroughs. I think it came out through conversation that I valued those things as well. Even though I didn't necessarily meditate with you, it got me thinking about it. Even though I didn't journal, it got me thinking. And so I lived kind of vicariously through that. And the talk about positive this and reinforcement, all those things were sinking in with me too. And I may have not sat down and read the book. I may have not listened to all the podcasts you told me about or this or that, but hearing you talk about human design and understanding you and me and the kids, I got a lot out of that. And so it was when you stopped doing that was also a void for me. And it's I don't just love it because I love when you're doing it, but I felt like it was affecting me positively as well.
Yeah.
And so I think that when I was trying to think, there was one other thing. I think that was kind of the thing is after we've talked about it for a little while. But I think the other thing, and I feel like that there's been maybe some change or whatever since is like, if you say like, I don't feel like I have a purpose and I don't feel like, I'm ever leaving the house, or I don't feel like I'm having, interactions with, like, at some point I said, look, well, you got to do something different.
Right.
You know what I
right.
mean? Like, you can't keep telling me that day in and day out
Right.
and then not doing anything different,
Right.
and I know that you're going walking a couple times this week. I know that you've gotten out of the house, more to go do stuff or whatever. Like, to me, that is important as well, because I mean, your mental health is important, but that, I think, when you start to do that, you start to create some motion. You start to create, like, that's going to not eliminate the frustration or the irritation or the doubt, but it will certainly help. I
Yeah.
mean, you're going and making TikToks with a bag on your head because you got caught in the rain, or you're going through a Walmart and aisle and you're making, like, that's a lot different than doing it in the living room every single time. And so I think that was also, when we talked on Tuesday, that kind of came out as like, that's also part of where the frustration's coming into plays. If it's like I'm saying, I know that if I'm irritated, I'm going to go to the gym and it's going to help me be less irritated if I do it on a regular basis. So it's kind of hard for me to say I'm irritated every day, yet I'm not doing the things that I know, help with those things. And so I think as long as we kind of continue to communicate and say, look, like, you need to get out of the house, you need to go do this, you need to go do that, you need to call your girlfriends or take the dogs or whatever it is that you got to do. But that, I think that was part of it as well. That was somewhat of a breakthrough, if you will.
Yeah, I would agree with
But
that.
I'm not an antiquated, like, I fix my own food, I fix my own drinks, I do my own laundry, I fold my own clothes.
Hold on, you fix your own food, as in you make your own plate.
Yeah. I don't cook dinner.
And I would never say that it is antiquated by any means, but the way you were talking,
Agree.
and it was a little bit condescending in the fact of you saying, I mean, you don't have a job, so honestly, like, this is literally all you're expected to do, and while,
or fix it. You're expected to fix it. Like, stop complaining.
Agree,
just fix it.
Right. And while I agree that we have agreed that, those are things that I will do, the way you came off as it did come off as though, like, that's an expectation. And I don't want it to come off like that, because I have that expectation of myself. I probably put that expectation on myself more than you do. But I think when we get into fights or arguments or, disagreements or whatever you want to call it around this whole topic, because this isn't the first time this has come up, you immediately kind of go there with that. And it does sound condescending.
I get it.
But, so. I mean, I will be the first in a heartbeat to text you and say, I'm tired. I'm not doing dinner tonight. We're going to have to go order something or whatever.
Oh, my God.
Like,
I would love for you to say that shit. You cook too much now.
Literally,
and I'm like, bro.
Yeah, you tried to get me.
I've got 4 meals max. 5 on some weeks. And I'm just like.
Three times this week you've tried to get out of having food at the house or whatever. So.
Yeah.
But I'm not. I've cooked 4 days this week. I'm not cooking tomorrow or Saturday.
You are a really good cook, by the way.
And probably Sunday because we're the kids. Lauren has to work on Sunday, which is Easter, and Jackson is probably going to be working too. So I think we're going to do Easter dinner on Monday instead. So.
And for those who listened to the last episode, I've not sat on a couch at all while you cooked this week. I sat at the bar stool a couple times. I sat at the table a couple times. And I've helped a little bit in a little capacity once as well. So I've in fact, I caught myself sitting on the couch today. I hadn't even gotten to a channel yet. And then in my mind, I was thinking, don't even do that. Just go ahead and get up and go into the kitchen. And then you said, hey, can you come help with the Red Lobster biscuits or whatever? So it was like all the timing, but I was literally about to get up because I literally said to myself, do not get caught sitting on this couch. Not caught by you, but don't allow myself to be that habit. You know what I mean? So,
and the day after you were doing it, and I was like, get the fuck away. Like, I don't want to see your face right now. Please go. So, yeah. No, I do appreciate that. You do make an effort. And I just think it's good. Like, we can't always, I think it's unrealistic probably for us to think that we are always going to immediately get down to the bottom of what is going on and get to a resolution. Or always, agree on what's going on. I think we've been pretty fortunate for the most part in being able to do that, especially with the topics that we've brought up, here on the podcast. But, that was it was a different one. It was one that, I feel like we've encountered this before, sort of, but in a slightly different way. And I think that's just me. Like, it just keeps coming up. I just have to keep reminding myself of that it's okay. Like, this is completely okay for me to do. It just is.
Mm-hmm.
How the hell I'm ever make money doing something? I don't know that. That is what I do not know. But I'm just at this point like, you know what? If you follow me on TikTok, if you see one of my TikToks, then I hope you follow me. But just know that because you like that one TikTok, the next one that you're going to see is probably going to be about something completely different.
Yeah, that's cool.
I'm going to be very positive, very motivating in one, and then I'm going to be doing snarky marriage humor in another, and then I'm going
to be in a couple of them.
You're going to be in some of them, and then I might be giving tips on, how to grow your social media. So who knows? I mean, it's going to be all over the place. And then I'll probably be making cookies the next time. So who knows? But
one thing is certain, she's probably not done her hair, and
I look a hot mess right now. And I got a bug bite, like I got a mosquito bite on my freaking cheek right there. So my intent today, I was supposed to be starting to paint back because we painted Lauren's room. It's been a year ago, and we painted this office a year ago. It's been almost a year ago. And I still have blue tape.
Shame on us. Shame on us.
There's still blue tape on Lauren's, shame, I know, on her baseboards. And we need to paint that bathroom. And that was my intent today, to do that. But things got moving along for you, and you're like, hey, I really need this, and I need this, and I need this. And so one thing led to another. And I did pull the stuff out of the bathroom under the cabinet. It's not, the paint stuff is not there now. It's all in my closet. So I have made one move towards doing that. So I'm going to start painting again. And
oh my gosh.
What? Do we need to pause?
No. Oh my gosh.
By the way, I work during the day tomorrow, so.
Huh?
I work at night tomorrow, so.
Okay. So anyway,
I was going to go to your note. There was one or two things. I had added something and you had added something.
I don't know. Can we talk about love on the spectrum for a second?
Yeah. I love it.
I don't know what other notes we've added, but love on the spectrum.
I like both first two seasons.
Yeah.
But I'm really glad that season 3 they brought back people from the previous season.
I like that too.
So you can kind of really see the whole story and their involvement.
I know you hate when I do this. My throat is itching. I don't know why. It's driving me crazy.
Yeah.
I think it's because of Lauren.
But I will also tell you that my phone knew I was watching it because every time I went to Instagram or TikTok, one of them from the show was on there. So, of course, I think I follow in every single one of them now. Tanner was my favorite last year. Yeah. Connor is by far my favorite this year. I mean, by far. Fun. And his social media is pretty dope too.
Really?
He's so serious and whatnot, but his family, all of them have great families, wonderful families. Yeah. But his family, his mom in particular, because she's on there the most, they support him so much. But he's just so incredibly smart and witty, and when he starts talking and he's thinking, it's like pause this, like the way he does it. So I don't know, but he's my favorite. And then
I don't know, but it was so uncomfortable. It was so funny, but yet also so uncomfortable watching.
Oh, the kissing.
Yes. What's her name? Gosh, what is her name?
Well, which one are you talking about? I'm
talking about David.
The ones that are getting married. No, they kiss okay.
Yes.
Oh no, no. Oh
Yes.
yeah, with the cowboy guy, the cowboy guy that came on.
The second day.
She's my second favorite person, and I don't know why I can't think of her name right now.
Well, the second day,
the one that with all the bracelets,
Yes.
the color, yeah.
They decided to be boyfriend and girlfriend, and as soon as they were decided to be boyfriend and girlfriend
On date number 2.
it was "I love you" and "baby," and then he comes to the house to meet the parents, which I'm sure is like they said like 3 weeks later. It was like 3 weeks
but anyway,
later.
it was still.
But it was only the third time they had seen each other in
So
person.
it makes it look like, first of all, they kiss like every 2 minutes. And when I say kiss, like they're grabbing and kissing. They're doing like these long pecks. Well, it's right there in front of the parents. And they're like, okay, all righty. And so it.
It's the last episode, wasn't it?
The 1 or 2, yeah.
Oh,
but anyhow,
God, it's
so anyhow,
hilarious.
it also made it look like he says, "Can I talk to your parents alone privately?"
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, "Oh shit!"
I know,
This
I was
dude
like-
is about to say, "Can I get married?" So then he asked, "Can she go to Universal or something like that?" I was like, whoosh. I know that dad was like, whoosh, because he was thinking,
It was
"Oh my
his
god."
face is hilarious because
And
the
the
mom,
mom.
the mom is just kind of like, "Oh my god, this is the best thing ever!" Like she loves it, but the dad is like, "Is this really happening?"
Yeah.
Like right in front,
All
like
right. Okay,
literally,
guys.
we
Okay, yeah.
are
And
we are
he's saying
5
this.
feet
He's
away.
literally
like,
saying this out loud.
Okay, that's a lot of kissing. All right, you
Yeah.
guys are really into kissing right now.
But it's like when they kiss, they don't just. It's not just a pet. Like
I know David is going in.
he brings her in.
And this girl has her own apartment. She lives by
Yeah.
herself. Like they're gonna have to be like, no, you guys are not allowed to go to her apartment because
Yeah.
we know what's fixing to
Yeah.
happen. But what the funniest thing was when they asked him, they said, "So have you?" After he's kissed her like a bunch of times, they're like, "Well, have you had many girlfriends before?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I have a bunch of them, but
I love her the
I
most.
love her the most."
I love her the most.
I was like, "Oh God
Yeah.
Almighty!" It'll be very interesting. I need to check up on them because I really want to see if they are still a thing or not.
They are. And Connor and his girlfriend, I think I saw
Are they?
post today.
Okay.
Because he was holding a sword and he said, "My hands look like
And I
this,
love
so her
that.
hands can look like this."
I love that for him because
Tanner, I don't think he's not dating anybody. But.
Tanner. I hope Tanner finds somebody.
No, but what I told you I was worried about was Connor and Danny.
Yeah,
Danny's
yeah.
a little horny one.
Danny is horny.
So they're in a car together, and he tries to do some questions about rock formation. Well, Danny showed his ass. She knows as much about rock formation, if not more, than Connor does. And you could the two of them just going at, well, what about? And they were just trying to outsmart each other about rock formation, and they were both incredibly smart. But I'm sitting there thinking, no, Danny, you need to get your ass out of the car. You ain't gonna mess this up with Connor and his girlfriend because I like his girlfriend, and you just want to hump everybody. But
Poor Danny. She just needs some D. She's just looking for some D. Just somebody give her some D one time
but anyhow,
and let her see what it's like.
she's cool. I love hearing her talk because she's very articulate. And So anyhow, it is. I really liked season 1 and 2, but season 3 to me like took it to another level. And
Season 1 were completely different cast, right?
Yeah, and I think maybe one of them was on there. There were a couple older people on there, or whatever. And then season 2 is when a lot of these folks got introduced.
Oh, well, you know what I thought was so interesting, and I loved hearing it, and I think everybody in the world needs to hear this. When, what's her name? The girl who loves the trains? Mm-hmm. I don't remember.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember what her name is.
The lesbian girl.
She's
lesbian.
She's
yeah.
decided now that she's going to be lesbian. Or she felt like she
she's
wanted
awesome
to
too. Yeah, she's
date
super
girls.
awesome.
And the girl that she went on that first date with, the very first girl that she went on the date with, was saying that she was very like high functioning autistic because, how did she word it? Something along the lines of women are so conditioned to not be autistic or to function normally so that you don't know there's any type of
Something wrong with her.
well, it's not something wrong, but a diagnosis or having their autism. And I thought that was, God, I really wish I had written down exactly what she said, because the way she said it, I was like, wow, like that is so true.
Yeah.
Like so conditioned to do things a certain way or to ignore this or, be this
Women
way.
have always been conditioned to do stuff. Yeah.
Right. So that you don't know that is happening. And I was like, God almighty, like, isn't that the truth?
The other thing I like about the show is like if you pay attention, I mean it's quite educational too. So the couple that is going to get married, they went to Africa together and all that. I don't know what they call it. She knows, but he sees colors and numbers.
He sees numbers as colors.
Yeah,
and
so the yellow is a number 3, black is a number. And it was, first of all, just learning that was really cool. But then second of all, like to see the way that she has learned that too, like that is, and you know, and she takes, not takes up for him, but like when they went to the wine tasting thing, like there was like a rosé color and she was like, that's a number 9. And then she was like, he sees numbers and color, like this. I don't know, man.
She knocked her wine over, and he knew exactly what to do.
Breathe.
He's like, breathe. It's okay. And so he's helping her
Oh
regulate.
my God, what about her
and calm
freaking
down.
song though?
She
Not only-
sounded like a freaking Disney
100%.
princess. She wrote that song. That was amazing.
If you go to her, I'm
sounded
getting chills
amazing.
right now. If you go to her Instagram, she has other songs where she's like singing on a stage and stuff, and it sounds just like a Disney princess.
She is really good.
But not only was she really good, but like if you just paid attention to the words of that, like it could not have
perfect.
been written better for them.
Yeah.
You know, like and like when you're part of the audience and you're watching it, like you have lived that with them over the last 2 seasons, and so like every single thing she said, I was like, that's y'all to a T. And then I'm like, that's him and that's you. Like it was this season was special.
It was, and I hated it was ending. Like I was hoping to see more.
The other thing that I thought was interesting is the one girl who you said was lesbian, the more Asian girl that she's dating now, or they were dating. She had a stick that a blind person would normally carry, and she called it something. And I don't know if it's related to autism or not, but she said she's not blind, but that her brain doesn't process what her eyes see.
Yeah.
And that's the purpose of that stick. Because you're like, well, how did you see that? Or how did you... And I think that there's probably some things she can process and not process and that kind of thing. Or maybe it takes longer. I don't know. But that was another... Like, you would never know that unless you were exposed to, you know, that kind of thing. So...
And you know, the crazy thing is, I think when we were younger, like it's still not...
We got to remember their names. I always feel bad when I talk about people like outside of their names, because I
think, you know, today in today's world, it's definitely much more known, but still not as known as it should be. But when we were growing up, it definitely was not a thing.
No.
Like, and
you had behavior issues.
yes,
You may have had ADHD or ADD,
maybe,
because that was when ADD and ADHD started to.
It was later into my high school
rear its
years.
head,
I feel like before that
But
even
before
became
that,
a thing.
before that, you were just a
bad kid.
Yeah, and you couldn't learn in school. You were punished. Your parents punished. Like everybody, no one wanted to be like all these things that are like somewhat normal now. And I mean, there's still struggles and everything that a lot of them go through. But that's why I think shows like this, it's you have to normalize this stuff. Mm-hmm. And I think the more people see it, the more they understand it, the more they get around it, the more. I don't know, is accepting the right word? You know what I mean? Like
I think we have to be willing to. I think we have to be willing to change and meet people where they are, as far as understanding that it's not right or wrong. It doesn't make. It's not making one person's not good or better or worse. It's just different, and being willing to understand all the differences and. You know, that is normal. Like,
but
normal.
so case in point, I read a Facebook post today. It was on one of these pages or whatever, and this lady was complaining about a child at the store throwing a temper tantrum. Mm-hmm. And I would have taken him in the car and whooped his ass and all this other stuff. And somebody had come on and said, well, listen, you don't know what's going on in that lady's life, what's going on in the child's life. I said, I have an autistic child. And I will tell you, these temper tantrums, it could be from being overstimulated. It could be from whatever. And I think that, like, when I was reading that post, like, I was infuriated because my mind went to, you have no idea what that kid was going through
Right.
or anything like that. And the audacity of this lady to sit here and say, I would have done this.
Right.
I put my stuff up and I went,
Yeah.
screw you.
Go on, Karen.
Pompous ass.
Right.
But the point being is like, I feel like the older I've gotten, I think sometimes that comes with maturity, but I find that when I'm in those situations, my mind, 20 years ago would have been like frustrated. Now my mind immediately goes to like, how can I help? Or how can I, get them through the line to kind of ease the situation or whatever the case may be. Or there's maybe something wrong with that child and he just kind of helps eliminate their frustration. And then you immediately start to look around to like, hey, you need to calm your ass down or, go to another line if you want. You know what I'm saying? Like that's typically where my mind goes in situations like that. And I just feel like that these types of shows and the more exposure you have to stuff like this through podcasts and documentaries and shows, it's just like it starts to normalize it where people really understand it a little bit more.
I was listening to somebody on TikTok today, and she's a doctor of some sort. I don't know exactly of what type of degree, but she is talking about, she says that she has autism, and she's like normalizing all of this and talking about it and talking about basically, everyone having some sort of, form of autism or whatever. And she said, she was talking to ladies specifically, and she said, if you go somewhere and you think it is anxiety and it's ADHD, and because you've gone somewhere and you feel overstimulated, she's like, it might just be that it's not just being overstimulated or an ADHD. She said it could also be, in addition to that you are highly intuitive and you are taking in the energies of everyone that's there and maybe everyone that might have been there in the past. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like you don't know. I feel like those that could possibly have these diagnoses, I bet they are so highly intuitive, and at a young age, you don't know that. They don't know how to express it to you, possibly. You already know, kids and pets, their veil is open for them. They see things that as adults we have brought the veil down. We cannot and do not see, most of us.
Because we've been conditioned.
Even though we all can do it. We all have that capability. Some of us have tapped into it, others have not. And so for these kids that could be experiencing these meltdowns, it could be some of that too. Like if I were seeing some freak in nature that I wasn't supposed to be seeing, or somebody's coming up to me constantly talking to me and nobody else sees this person, like I'd be freaking the fuck out too. Like, so, I kind of thought, oh, well, I'm like, that's interesting. I don't know. I love it. I love, I love all that. I love everything.
So they better come out with a season 4.
I hope so, yes.
And I
hope we at least, if they're not in it, I hope we at least get a recap of where they all are. But
I'm in their lives right now.
Tanner's the only one, like, we haven't seen him find love yet, and I really want Tanner to find love.
I actually like the girl that he was dating. I got to go back and look and see what happened. I'm not sure. But I don't think that they're together, but don't hold me to that. I'm going to go look after this. But I'm glad I'm following them now, because even if there's not a season 4, like, I'm dialing in them. But I guarantee you at least 2 or 3 of them will end up being mainstream, 100% mainstream. I don't know how, but...
what do you mean when you say mainstream?
Like on a game show or on like a Netflix show or a spin-off show or, something like that. And one of the girls came on and she was like, I was on season 1. Here's questions that I get asked, whatever. And she said, no, we did not get paid. And I'm sitting here thinking, you know what? Maybe not season 1 because you don't know how it's going to go. But damn, Netflix better be paying these jokers by season 3.
Better be paying them.
Because people are going crazy over this show.
Well, they need to go back and pay the season 1 people. That's not. I don't feel like that's right.
And I don't know what's normal. I don't know like on these docu-series types things what's normal or not. But I think the other thing that just you can't help but to love is really just the authenticity.
Yeah.
You know, like every single one of them.
They just say what they think.
Yeah.
It is.
In
And
fact,
I love that. I love the fact that when they don't like somebody, they're just like, you know what? I just want to be friends. I don't feel that way about you. And they're like, okay, I don't feel
Just
that way
as
either.
serious as can
And it's
be.
just
Yeah.
done. Like,
Yeah.
why can we not all be like that?
Yeah.
Like, that is perfect.
With the girl you're talking about, the one that's getting married, whatever. Anyways, I'm terrible with names, but anyhow, on her Instagram, her mom was like, I just love when so-and-so says exactly what she's thinking. And she was like, I'm not fat, Mom. I'm thick. Thick. You're a little fat, but you're not grandma fat. You're not grandma fat. You know what I'm saying? I'm thick, you're fat, but you're not grandma fat. And I was just like, oh my God.
My
Yeah.
God.
But here's the other thing that is so heartwarming, touching, whatever about that show is when you see these breakthrough moments, the way the parents react. Like they have literally been waiting 25 years,
Oh, yeah.
30 years
Oh, yeah.
for this normalcy to
Interaction,
happen.
yes.
And it's just like,
Yes.
and that's why I think when these families, when they find each other and the families find each other, there's such a strong bond, even amongst the parents, the wives and all the sisters, because it is just they have been yearning for it.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
once
absolutely.
so
You always want to
Yeah.
see your kids succeed.
I want to go watch season 3 again. We literally just finished it. I'll watch it again.
Yeah, I absolutely would. Yeah, it's great. It's a great watch. So if you haven't seen that, Love on the Spectrum, and that sounds good to you, go watch it. Give them a follow, all the things, because they are we've really bonded with all of them. We
Yep.
think it's really cool. Can we talk real quick before we finish up, because we've hit just about an hour, and can we talk about this whole space shuttle thing? Can we talk about this the trip,
the crew versus the passengers
trip to space
Yeah.
that these ladies took?
Katy Perry's taking some damn heat. They're like, bro, you rode a roller coaster. You're not an astronaut. She's coming down. I have a newfound love. They're like, literally, 11 minutes.
Okay, they did go out of the Earth's atmosphere, and they did look down on the Earth, the round Earth. So that is very cool. And they floated. Like, I'm sure I've never felt that sensation, so I'm sure that is extremely cool. But when we were talking about it, before we knew anything about it, I'm asking him, like, well, like, how long were they gone? Like, I am thinking this is a pretty quick trip. And you're like, no, I think this is like an 8-hour thing. I was like, 8 hours? There's like,
You're going to freaking outer space.
right, but normal space shuttles get to outer space within a couple of minutes. Like,
No, you don't see them for beyond a couple minutes, but that doesn't mean they're not still in the clouds and going up and up and up.
oh, geez.
But anyhow,
okay, so
11 minutes.
11 minutes. A round trip, 11 minutes. I
Yeah.
was like, they went to space. They went to space and got back home quicker than I can get from our house to Wild Wings. It was literally.
They could have gone twice, actually. No, Wild Wings probably about 11 minutes.
It was so. I mean, the people tripping out. It was so funny. But I think the one thing that did irritate me is when they were talking about it on the different shows. I think it was the morning show or whatever.
Yeah.
They called them astronauts, and I'm like, I wonder how regular real astronauts that are trained to be astronauts feel about that, because like these are people that just took a trip. Like,
Well,
this is not.
And there were
there
there were two
members.
other women on there. This is the first all-female crew, which is cool. But there were 2 other women I know of. That one of them worked for NASA.
Like, somebody's got to man
she was
this
a
thing, right?
scientist, I
Okay.
guess. I don't know. But anyways, they were like, those are the people we really should be talking about, and we should be referring to them as crew and the other ones as passengers. You know,
Right.
you're not going to call Gail or Katie
Right.
crew. They're not. You know, they didn't have anything to do with it. So I think that was somewhat of a big to do, and I think that
The fact that Katy Perry came out and kissed the ground, like, I'm like, okay, really?
So I think
Which,
that,
I mean, I would be scared to probably go
I
do
think
it.
some of that accomplishment, if you will, kind of got lost in that, because
sure.
it was almost like,
Well, also, like, so I'm confused. Are they on the same rocket that the ones that keep exploding? Like, who has the ones that keep exploding? And then why was this one safe?
I don't know.
And didn't explode.
These were Jeff Bezos.
Okay,
And
so
the
maybe
other
it's
ones might be Elon's. That's blowing up.
exploded.
I don't know
and
the answer
Jeff
to that.
Bezos
though.
don't.
Allegedly, because I don't know.
Allegedly, everything's allegedly.
Because I really don't know. And I don't know if it's because of the way they're built. I don't know. What are you doing?
I don't know. I was just looking on TikTok to see if anybody was there.
We got like 2,000 hearts. I don't know if that means anything.
I don't know what that means either. If y'all are on TikTok, tap that, tap.
It means we probably earn like 2 cents on this live.
No, I don't think we earn.
I don't think
anything.
you earn anything on hearts. They got to give you like other stuff.
I don't know. I don't know anything about all that, but just thought it would be, I don't know, something different.
Cool. All right, we gooch.
We're gooch.
All right, we'll add a couple things to notes for next week. This is probably, I'm guessing this is maybe our 40th episode.
I think probably close to it.
This might be my favorite one.
This was, yeah.
I think after Tuesday, combining it with Tuesday, breakthrough, we'll call that breakthrough. This is probably maybe my favorite episode.
Yeah, so maybe next week we can actually talk about all the things that we've done recently. Because we have been going. We've been doing things recently. We could also talk about this thing on my foot that I shook out with my vibration plate.
Yeah.
Or actually Nicole's vibration plate. But anyway. So, okay, yeah. I love you guys. And if you're on TikTok, give me a follow. That'd be great.
Same. Kent Kilcon.
All right, love you guys. Bye. Oh, that was the crayon. I'm not supposed to do that.